everything we said we would do, we've done on this. But if we have options to be able to make the experience even better, then we're going to do that. So last summer, Congress passed the reconciliation legislation, and in that was a federal tax credit opportunity for school choice. And the way it works is, and I think it'll be on your current tax year if you want to claim it, you will have an opportunity. So say you owe $10,000 in taxes, you can take $1,700 of that and direct it not to the federal government, but to the scholarship granting organizations. And so how much money is the program going to end up getting? It depends on what individual taxpayers do. We did, when our tax credit is corporate tax credit. I think that makes more sense than individual, just because the corporate, you can call up and say, hey, can you do this or whatever. There's only so many, people that are filing corporate taxes, and so you can really get a lot of people to do it. And I've had conversations over the years when they were getting attacked by, by activist media, kind of the woke mob. Oh, you're funding a scholarship where kids are going and they're teaching, Christian, oh my gosh, oh, that's bad. And so, but the thing is, some of these executives, they get spooked. They don't want controversy. But the lesson on all that is, that mob comes after you. If you blink, they know they've got you, and they'll keep coming back and back. If you tell them to pound sand, they'll squeal. They'll squeal. They will squeal. They'll squeal, but you know what? They're not gonna mess with you anymore because they know you don't care. And so we had to kind of fortify some of the folks that were in our scholarship program on the corporate side. So the bottom line is, we don't really know how many taxpayers are going to opt into this or not. So we don't know exactly, and we don't know how many states are going to ultimately participate in this. But there is going to be some level of money to where students will be able to be eligible for some of these scholarships. And so this will start January of 2027. It's interesting, they basically said the states have to opt into it. I'm not sure why they did that, because, quite frankly, Florida, we've already done it, right? So a state that's inclined for school choice has probably done something on its own. Where you really need these scholarships, you need to get into Chicago and give these kids a lifeline, right? You need to get into Los Angeles. You need to get into some of these places, Baltimore, where they've had a lot of problems, but the unions control the education system. The Chicago Teachers Union, it's basically like Karl Marx. It reincarnated with their agenda. Very hyper-left, hyper-partisan, very mean during COVID to the students. They wanted the students out of school, locking the kids out. And then meanwhile, you'd see some of these folks in the Chicago Union, they'd be in the Bahamas just having a great time. That's the kind of stuff you're doing. So really, really partisan political control over some of these school districts. But the problem is I don't think those states are going to opt into it. And so you're basically in a situation where probably it's going to be Republican states that are going to, by and large, opt into it. I don't know why you wouldn't opt into it, but I think it's just a political thing with school unions, because this will introduce some competition. But I think if you could airdrop in scholarships, to people in the south side of Chicago, the union wouldn't like that. But boy, that could potentially be game-changing for those students. And so maybe they'll get there at some point. But as it stands now, states have to, to opt in. So when we looked at it, obviously, philosophically, we're in favor of doing it. We want to make sure it's not going to subtract from what we're already doing or somehow do that. And I think they haven't finished the regulations. They're still working on it in the Treasury Department, but I think we're confident that this is something that could be beneficial. So on School Choice Week, I can announce that Florida will be participating in this new federal education freedom tax credit. This will be something that will start January of 2027 for taxpayers to be able to do. This will allow students to get, so, we basically have these ESAs. So, if you're already paying tuition and you have everything, you could still get that and maybe do tutoring with it. Maybe you can do some additional supplies or books or other things to help advance the growth of your child. So it gives parents more resources, more options. We obviously, as these regulations are proposed, if there's anything in there that is somehow not going to be kosher for how Florida does it, we'll let them know. That's certainly not their intent. And so we just need to make sure that all that. But I think this could be something that's really meaningful. I think it'll supplement the great stuff we're already doing here. Probably is going to be pretty groundbreaking in states that have not yet gone down the road of school choice. But here we are further empowering residents and families to be able to make the most. And I'll tell you, look around the country. We've got these scholarships with the kids for special needs. They go to these schools, and that's what the school is geared towards. I can tell you those schools would not exist without our scholarship programs. I mean, that's how they basically are able to operate. And so we've had parents that will move from other states to Florida because they used to call them Gardner scholarships. I guess they changed. I don't know why they changed, or they changed the name on it, but it was really good, and it still is good. So you have that. The homeschooling. We have one of the biggest homeschool populations. Where do we rank in homeschooling? Do you know? At the top. Well, you know who actually is good, and so we do good in homeschool because we embrace it and we empower. I think California has a lot of homeschool too, because they're running for cover. That's why they're doing it. It's like, they don't want their second grader taught that there are 97 genders, and so they're opting out. They're done. Sorry. So I think they have a pretty big, but we have a big population too, and we're really, really proud of that. Proud of our charters. I mean, proud. We're doing like classical academies. I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine that runs one of them up in Northeast Florida. Classical education in a charter setting, and it's very high quality. You have more specialty schools that can develop that focus on certain, not niche, but certain specialties. And that's really, really positive. So I think the best is yet to come, because as we've empowered parents, you now have the ability to almost like mix and match the education experiences. With our program, if you had a group of homeschool parents, they could pool some of their ESA money, and they could bring, like, maybe there's a good teacher at like the local public school in government. Then you could do and hire to come in and teach the dozen kids that are being homeschooled. You can do all kinds of things that I think are really innovative. So I want to thank everybody for being a part of that. I think this is going to supplement our efforts in a good way. What we don't want is the schools to just simply see this money's there and then raise the tuition. That's not what we want. We want the parents to actually benefit. So we'll be watching on that and seeing kind of how all that shakes out with that. And then, we do have some private schools that don't accept the scholarship. And we disagree with that. I mean, I think that they'll say, well, we just don't want to be entangled with anything. But, that's not what the state has done. The parent is the one that's ultimately directing it, not us. And so they're doing it. I think it's just because, they don't necessarily want to have people from lower demographics going to the school. And I think that's unfortunate because, you have opportunities to really lift people up. But nevertheless, I think 90-some% do accept it. And we're thankful that they accept it. So, all right, well, we'll hear from our Hammer Education Secretary, Stasi Kamutsis. Come on up.